Something happened in 2026 that nobody inside Microsoft would have admitted was possible 12 months earlier. The company that spent the better part of 2 years forcing its AI assistant into every corner of your operating system, into the taskbar, into Notepad, into Paint, into the snipping tool, into the Photos app, into the search bar, into the right-click menu, into Edge, into the Start menu, into the keyboard itself, started quietly taking it back out. Not all of it. Not permanently, not with an apology, but piece by piece, surface by surface, button by button, the Copilot branding started disappearing from the places it never had any business being in the first place. And the reason it started disappearing is the one thing that Microsoft's product strategy almost never bends to. The one force that can override years of AI investment and billions of dollars of platform commitment. Users hated it, loudly, consistently, with a creativity and persistence that eventually made its way through every layer of corporate insulation between product feedback and product decisions. This is the story of how Microsoft's most aggressively deployed Windows feature in a decade ran into the one wall that AI-powered ambition cannot scale the actual people who have to use it every day. And it is the story of what Microsoft is actually doing about it, what they are keeping, what they are removing, and why the word surrendered in today's title is both the right word and, in at least one important sense, exactly the wrong one. Let's go back to where this story starts, because the scale of Microsoft's Copilot deployment ambition is necessary context for understanding what a pullback of any kind actually means. Through 2024 and into 2025, Microsoft executed one of the most aggressive AI feature integration campaigns in the history of consumer operating systems. Copilot appeared in the taskbar of Windows 11 as a persistent icon. It appeared in the right panel of the Start menu. A dedicated hardware key was added to new keyboards, the first new key on a Windows keyboard since the Windows key in 1994, discussed in detail in an earlier episode of this series, specifically to launch Copilot instantly from any context. Copilot branding appeared in Notepad. Notepad, the text editor that has existed in Windows since 1983, with a colorful logo in the top right corner and AI writing tools integrated into what had been, for 40 years, the simplest possible text editing tool. It appeared in Paint with generative image features. It appeared in the snipping tool with an Ask Copilot button that sent your screenshots to Microsoft's AI infrastructure. It appeared in the Photos app. It appeared in File Explorer. It appeared in Edge's sidebar. It appeared in the Settings app. It appeared in Windows Search. At the peak of this deployment, there was almost no surface in Windows 11 where Copilot was not present in some form, invited or not. The user response was, to put it charitably, mixed. To put it accurately, a significant and vocal portion of the Windows user base rejected the integration thoroughly and expressed that rejection in terms that became impossible to ignore. The term microslop, a portmanteau combining Microsoft with a word implying degraded quality, coined around the turn of the new year, spread through enthusiast communities, tech forums, Reddit, and eventually mainstream tech media as shorthand for the perception that Microsoft was prioritizing AI feature accumulation over the core quality, reliability, and respect for user preference that Windows users had historically expected from the operating system. The criticism was not that AI assistance was inherently bad or that Copilot had no useful applications. The criticism was specifically about the deployment method, about features that were turned on by default, that could not easily be removed, that reinstalled themselves after updates, that occupied interface real estate whether users wanted them there or not, and that in many cases provided utility far below what the aggressive placement implied. The feedback reached Microsoft's product teams in a form they could not reasonably discount. Reviews of Windows 11 on major technology publications consistently cited Copilot bloat as a negative. Enterprise IT administrators, the purchasing decision makers for the commercial licenses that represent a significant portion of Microsoft's Windows revenue, complained loudly about the inability to cleanly manage Copilot's presence on managed devices. And then came the event that made the situation impossible to ignore. Microsoft's March 11th, 2026 security updates KB 5053598 and KB 50536 contained a bug that accidentally uninstalled the Copilot app from Windows 10 and 11 systems. The app that Microsoft had spent 2 years forcing onto every Windows machine, that reinstalled itself after being manually removed, that could not be cleanly excluded through standard Windows management tools, was accidentally deleted by Microsoft's own update. And the user response was immediate and revealing. Users woke up to find the AI feature they never asked for had mysteriously vanished, and many were celebrating rather than complaining. When your users celebrate the accidental deletion of your flagship feature, that is product feedback of a kind that transcends any survey or focus group. Microsoft heard it. On March 20th, 2026, Pavan Davuluri, president of Windows and Devices, published a landmark blog post outlining Microsoft's renewed commitment to Windows quality. It was, for all intents and purposes, a peace offering to the user base, promising fewer disruptions and a deliberate pullback on AI bloat. The blog post did not use those specific words. Corporate communications rarely describe their own products as bloat, but the substance of the commitment, fewer forced AI entry points, more user control, a focus on the quality of what is already in Windows rather than the addition of more features, was read by the technology press and the Windows community as exactly what it was, an acknowledgement that the 2025 deployment strategy had gone too far, and that course correction was necessary. What followed, the March 20 commitment, has been a sequence of specific, documented changes that together constitute the Copilot pullback, not a total removal, not a surrender in the sense of abandoning AI in Windows entirely, but a meaningful strategic retreat from the most aggressive deployment positions of 2025. Let's go through them specifically, because the details matter for understanding what has actually changed on your machine and what has not. The first and most visible change is the removal of Copilot branding from Windows inbox applications. Microsoft has quietly and entirely removed the Ask Copilot button from the snipping tool in the Photos app. In Notepad, the jarring, colorful Copilot logo that sat in the top right corner has been stripped away. For Notepad specifically, in Notepad version 11.25.12.28.0, Microsoft removed Copilot branding completely from the Write, Rewrite, and Summarize Tools section and Notepad settings. The AI writing tools themselves, the ability to have text rewritten or summarized, were not removed from Notepad. The branding and the prominent Copilot entry point were removed. Microsoft confirmed it will reduce unnecessary Copilot entry points in apps like Notepad. Microsoft is only saying it will be more selective about where Copilot appears in Windows, and it will reduce unnecessary Copilot entry points in some apps. It neither confirmed nor denied that AI is being entirely removed from native apps. This distinction, reducing entry points versus removing AI functionality, is important for accurately characterizing what Microsoft is and is not doing. The AI capability continues to exist in these applications. The forced, in-your-face branding and button placement is what is being scaled back. The second significant change is the April 2026 Group Policy Edition, and this one is more substantive from a technical control perspective than the cosmetic branding changes. Microsoft has added a Windows 11 policy called Remove Microsoft Copilot App in the April 2026 update, giving administrators a supported way to uninstall Copilot from managed PCs and reduce the chance that future Windows servicing will quietly put it back. The policy is called Remove Microsoft Copilot App and is available through both Group Policy and Policy CSP after the April 2026 update, supporting non-disruptive removal on devices managed via Microsoft Intune or SCCM. For enterprise IT administrators, this is genuinely significant. The persistent reinstallation of Copilot through Windows updates, where an administrator would remove the app, a subsequent update would silently reinstall it, and the cycle would repeat, had been a specific and documented source of frustration in managed enterprise environments. A supported policy that removes Copilot and prevents updates from putting it back is a meaningful change in the manageability of the feature for organizations that have made the determination that Copilot is not appropriate for their managed device fleet. However, the policy comes with conditions that the register was quick to document and that provide important context for what the policy actually covers. A device must have both Microsoft 365, Copilot, and Microsoft Copilot installed. The Microsoft Copilot app cannot have been installed by the user. The app must not have been launched in the last 28 days. That third condition is particularly constraining. A device on which any user has opened Copilot in the past 28 days is not eligible for the policy-based removal. In managed environments, where even occasional accidental Copilot launches occur, maintaining the 28-day window across all devices in a fleet is an ongoing management task rather than a one-time configuration. And even if admins succeed in removing it, users can simply reinstall Copilot if they choose. The policy prevents automatic reinstallation through Windows servicing, but it does not prevent a user from manually reinstalling from the Microsoft Store. For Windows 11, home users, the largest consumer segment, the Group Policy option is not available at all, because Group Policy Editor is a pro and enterprise exclusive feature. Windows Home lacks Group Policy, but registry edits achieve a similar effect. The registry method is more technically demanding than a Group Policy toggle and carries the usual risks associated with manual registry editing. But it provides home users with a path to persistent Copilot removal that did not exist in a supported or clean form before the April 2026 update established the underlying policy framework. The specific registry path and value that achieves the equivalent of the Remove Microsoft Copilot App Group Policy effect on home editions is documented in the community coverage around the April 2026 changes. navigating to the correct path within HKEA local machine under software, then policies, then Microsoft, then Windows AI, and setting the remove Microsoft Copilot app stored value to. Applies the policy effect without group policy editor. As with all registry edits, creating a restore point before making changes and following documented instructions precisely are strongly recommended, because incorrect registry modifications can cause system instability. The step-by-step process for this specific edit is widely documented across Windows community sites and is straightforward for users comfortable with the registry editor. Now let's step back and address the bigger strategic picture. Because the individual product changes the Notepad branding removal, the group policy addition, the reduction of Copilot entry points and inbox apps, are pieces of a larger shift in how Microsoft is positioning Copilot that deserves honest analysis rather than a simplistic Microsoft-surrendered narrative. Microsoft is not merely adding a one-off Copilot cleanup switch, it is building the early machinery for governing AI features as a class of operating system behavior. This framing from Windows Forum's analysis of the April changes captures something important. The pullback in consumer-facing Windows is happening simultaneously with a deepening of Copilot's integration into Microsoft's commercial and enterprise products. While Copilot in Microsoft 365 apps now supports direct edits to live documents in Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, Microsoft's Office Group president noted earlier limitations due to weaker foundation models, but recent updates make Copilot more agentic. The Copilot that is being removed from Notepad's top right corner is not the same Copilot that is being expanded in Microsoft 365's commercial deployments. One is a consumer feature that was pushed into places it did not serve users well. The other is a commercial product that is being actively developed toward genuine enterprise utility. Microsoft is building agentic capabilities AI that operates in the background of Microsoft 365, performing multi-step tasks across documents and workflows. Copilot is maturing from a consumer gimmick into a corporate workhorse. Meanwhile, Windows 11 is being left to a fix-it team. This characterization from Windows Latest, one of the most closely followed Windows journalism sources, describes the bifurcation of Microsoft's AI strategy in 2026. Copilot in consumer Windows is being pulled back from its most overextended positions. Copilot in enterprise Microsoft 365 is being expanded. The company is not abandoning AI. It is repositioning where in its product lineup that AI is most appropriate and most capable of delivering the quality of utility that justifies its presence. Leaders like Marcus Ashe, Windows Insider Lead, and Tali Roth, head of product for Windows Shell, have been incredibly active on social media, listening to community feedback and pushing out tangible performance updates. This represents a genuine change in the public-facing behavior of the Windows product team, a more visible engagement with user feedback, a greater willingness to acknowledge problems publicly, and a more rapid response cadence for issues that the community identifies. Whether this behavioral change represents a durable shift in how the Windows team operates or a temporary response to the intensity of the Microslop criticism is something that only time and continued observation will reveal. But the specific documented product changes, the Notepad branding removal, the group policy addition, the snipping tool, and Photos app changes demonstrate that the feedback is producing tangible outcomes, not just communication strategy adjustments. Let's be precise about what surrender does and does not mean in this context, because the title of this video uses a strong word that deserves honest examination. Microsoft has not surrendered its AI ambitions. It has not decided that Copilot was a mistake. It has not announced plans to return Windows 11 to a pre-AI state. The company's investment in AI across its product lineup, including Windows, is not reversing. What has changed is the deployment philosophy for the specific, highly visible, consumer-facing Copilot touchpoints in Windows that generated the most negative feedback. The Copilot key on keyboards is still there. The Copilot app is still in the Microsoft Store and still reinstallable with 2 clicks. The underlying AI infrastructure in Windows, the telemetry, the cloud connections, the Copilot Plus, PC capabilities for devices with NPUs, continues to develop and expand. Recall, the controversial continuous screenshot feature was redesigned but not abandoned. What surrendered, and this word is accurate, for the specific thing that changed is the strategy of forcing Copilot into every surface of Windows, whether users wanted it there or not, and relying on installation inertia and update-driven reinstallation to maintain presence that users had not chosen. Microsoft has been approaching 2026 with a very different mindset than it did the year before. 2025 was packed full of instances where Microsoft rolled out its AI assistant into as many apps and services as possible. However, after the Windows user base failed to meet Microsoft's enthusiasm for Copilot, the company has been pulling back its efforts. The pullback is from the forced ubiquity strategy. not from AI in Windows as a concept. And that distinction matters enormously for understanding what the changes you are seeing on your machine actually represent. Now, let's talk about what you can actually do with all of this, the specific steps for removing Copilot from your Windows 11 machine in a way that actually sticks, using the mechanisms Microsoft has now made available through the April 2026 update. The first step is checking your current Windows 11 edition, because it determines which removal method is appropriate for your machine. Open Settings, then System, then About, and look at Windows specifications to find your edition. If you are on Windows 11 Pro, Enterprise, or Education, you have access to Group Policy Editor and can use the cleanest, most supported removal method. If you are on Windows 11 Home, you will need the registry method to achieve equivalent results. The second step for Pro and above users is opening the local Group Policy Editor, type gpedit, MSC in the Start menu search, and run it. Navigate through the left panel to User Configuration, then Administrative Templates, then Windows Components, then Windows AI. You will see a policy titled Remove Microsoft Copilot App that not only removes the desktop version, but also Microsoft 365's Copilot. Double-click this policy, set it to Enabled, and click Apply then OK. The policy takes effect on the next group policy refresh cycle, which happens automatically or can be forced immediately by running gp update /force force in an elevated command prompt. The third step for home users is the registry equivalent. Before making any registry changes, create a restore point through System Properties, then System Protection, then Create as a safety baseline, then open Registry Editor by typing regedit in the Start menu search and running it as administrator. Navigate to HKE Local Machine, then Software, then Policies, then Microsoft, then Windows. If a Windows AI key does not already exist under Windows, right-click Windows, select New, then Key, and name it Windows AI. Inside Windows AI, right-click the empty right panel, select New, then DOORD, 32-bit, Value, name it, remove Microsoft Copilot App, and set its value to 1. Restart your machine for the change to take full effect. The fourth step is verifying that Copilot has been removed after applying either method. Open the Start menu and search for Copilot. It should no longer appear as an installed application. Check the taskbar settings to confirm the Copilot button is absent, and check the Microsoft Store. You should be able to see Copilot listed as an available application that is not currently installed, confirming the removal has taken effect, rather than simply hiding the app. The fifth step is important specifically because of the reinstallation behavior that was the core complaint about earlier removal attempts. After applying the group policy or registry method, perform a Windows Update check and allow any pending updates to install, then check again whether Copilot is still absent. The April 2026 policy change specifically addresses the reinstallation behavior that had made earlier manual uninstalls ineffective, but verifying that it actually holds through a full update cycle on your specific machine configuration is worth confirming rather than assuming. The sixth step is for users who want to go further than just removing the Copilot application, specifically users who want to also disable the Copilot-related entry points that remain in applications like Edge's sidebar and in the Windows Search integration, even after the standalone Copilot app has been removed. Edge's Copilot sidebar can be disabled within Edge's settings under Sidebar, where Copilot can be toggled off and removed from the sidebar display. The Windows Search Bing integration, which includes some Copilot adjacent features in the search results, is managed through the search permission settings we discussed in the earlier episode about Windows search privacy, where web results can be disabled to return search to a purely local function. These steps address the entry points that remain after the app removal, for users who want the most complete possible reduction of Copilot's presence across their Windows environment. The seventh step is a practical note about Microsoft 365 applications, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, for users who have a Microsoft 365 subscription. The Remove Microsoft Copilot App policy also affects Microsoft 365's Copilot integration in these applications. If you use Copilot features within Word or Excel specifically, the document editing assistance, the summarization, the drafting help, be aware that applying this policy removes those integrations alongside the standalone Windows app. For users who find the Microsoft 365 Copilot features useful in their productivity workflow while wanting the standalone Windows Copilot app removed, there is not currently a clean policy-level way to achieve that distinction. It is currently an all-or-nothing removal through the Remove Microsoft Copilot app policy. The eighth step is staying informed about how this situation will continue to evolve, because Microsoft's Copilot strategy is not static, and neither is the user control landscape around it. Microsoft will keep shipping AI features into Windows, including capabilities that rely on cloud infrastructure, on-device models, and integration with Microsoft services. The April 2026 policy edition and the notepad and snipping tool changes are early steps in what is likely to be an ongoing process of refinement, both of the AI features themselves as the underlying models improve, and of the governance and user control framework around how those features are deployed and managed, monitoring Windows' latest, XDA developers, and the Windows Release Health Dashboard for updates to the Copilot policy framework, new controls that emerge in subsequent updates, and changes to which applications and surfaces are gaining or losing. Copilot integration will keep you ahead of changes that affect your specific configuration. Let's close with the honest, complete picture of what this moment in Windows history actually represents. Microsoft deployed Copilot into Windows with a conviction that users would embrace AI assistance if it was simply present everywhere, accessible from any context, impossible to ignore. That conviction was tested against reality, against the actual preferences of the actual people who use Windows every day, and the test produced a clear result that required a strategic response. The response is not an abandonment of AI in Windows. It is a correction of the specific deployment error of forcing AI presence in places where it created a friction without creating value, using mechanisms that prevented users from meaningfully choosing whether they wanted it. The new group policy, the notepad branding removal, the snipping tool cleanup, the March blog post commitment, these are all the same thing, an acknowledgement that the relationship between a platform and its users cannot survive being built entirely around the platform's commercial ambitions without adequate weight being given to the user's own preferences about their own machine. Windows has over 1 billion users. Those users did not all ask for Copilot and Notepad. They did not ask for an AI button in the snipping tool. They did not ask for a dedicated keyboard key launching an AI assistant every time they accidentally pressed it. They asked for a computer that worked well and respected their choices. And when they said so clearly enough and persistently enough, Microsoft eventually, gradually, with the prodding of an accidental deletion that users celebrated, started listening. That is not complete surrender, but it is something. And on your machine, right now, using the steps we just went through, it is enough to get your notepad back the way it was supposed to be. Clean, simple, and working exactly the way you decide it should.